Have you heard of the Yerkes-Dodson curve? This will help you make sense of where you are in your sort of competition journey, if you like, because this settles down.
Fighters, welcome back to another episode of Heatrick Muay Thai Performance.
So performance from sort of like poor to strong there, weak to strong, and then from low arousal to high arousal. And that's just autonomic nervous system arousal, basically sympathetic, parasympathetic, fight or flight or rest and recovery, where you are on there. So elevated heart rate, sweating, nervous, all this kind of stuff. Everyone's got a peak, and it's just this inverted U curve where a little bit of arousal's good, and then there's a point where you drop off a cliff because you're over aroused. In first fights, you tend to be up here. It's a new experience. You're kind of panicking about it. How I've not fought someone before. How good is he? How experienced is he? Or he looks bigger or whatever than me, stronger than me, or all that kind of stuff. It nudges you into this high arousal, and it just means you move out of your peak performance. So you were up here. So you're gonna like you can see here, look, divided attention, your working memories all diminished, decision making, multitasking, but it's also fine motor skills in terms of athletic movements as well. You just end up with the coarse stuff. All the little finesse bits you had, just they're not accessible. Your brain's not accessing those motor units aren't happening. So it's kind of like, okay, cut myself some slack. That's where I was. Because you got caught, that was exaggerated. It was also first fight, so you got to expect that to happen. What was really good though was that your fitness actually looked good. You were still moving well, and very often that's what happens as well. There's so much tension that it's almost like you're driving with the brakes on, and you get super fatigued real quickly. It's just like, oh, I've got no cardio either. But actually, for you, you just felt like my skill abandoned me and my tactics, but I actually didn't feel like I was unfit. And often that happens for the first few fights as well. You just feel like my conditioning is terrible. I'm not very fit. Or, it just all went apart. That's where you are. So a lot of that stuff is purely experience, and probably don't need to change as much as you think to start expressing more of what you really can do. As you can calm down about the situation a bit more, you'll find you can access more of what you've already got. And it's just as simple as that. So yeah, I find that curve, ignore this sort of simple task one. That's not what we're playing with here. It's not a simple task where more arousal actually makes you more effective at it. This is the curve we're looking at for a combat sports performance. So when you look at personality traits, you've got that neurotic trait, or it's assertive or turbulent trait on the 16 personalities. If you're more turbulent, more higher on the neuroticism, you tend to be motivated more by avoiding something bad happening. This stuff is kind of situational as well. So in some situations you might be less neurotic, more assertive, and in other situations, like I'm more neurotic, more turbulent, and certainly something like a first fight, everybody ends up with that. I'm motivated by avoiding something bad, as in losing horribly, getting injured, or knocked out in front of everybody, all that kind of stuff. But also, I think when you did your personality testing, you were generally more towards the sort of turbulent side of the scale anyway. So that's the way you tend to be wired, to avoid something bad happening rather than moving towards something good. The more you can shift that towards chasing a positive goal rather than negative goal, it becomes a little bit more stable. And that also shifts up into, basically you've got, if I just go back to this, so you've got that low arousal to high arousal. So knowing like, how stressed am I compared to totally relaxed? We're trying to find that sort of happy medium where it's aroused enough. What you've also got, so that's on this scale here, the arousal from sort of low to high, but then you've also got valence, something unpleasant or something pleasant. And that valence, it's not necessarily just how activated or aroused you are, it's your perception. And so the more you're trying to avoid something bad happening, it's more like you're being motivated by fear. So what you end up with, the sort of emotions here on those two axes on the valence scale, you end up, if it's more like I'm trying to avoid being hurt, then rather than being like activated here and you're shifting this way, so it's more into being tense, nervous, fear, But if you can switch that to being a bit more positive, like, oh, I'm enjoying the challenge here. I'm gonna do better than I was doing last time. I'm gonna give myself a good test. You start shifting into that excited, alert, and it's the same level of arousal, but actually how your valence, how you feel about it, whether it's good or bad thing, shifts to whether it becomes something that's sabotaging you or something actually that's helping you. And there's loads of research on this. Have I got another? Yeah, so this is a good one. So you get basically, whether it's fear or excitement, it's the same neurochemicals that get released. It's just it's just how you shift how that feels. So it's just something to bear in mind, that you might be getting locked down and going tense, even for the same level of arousal, just because you've shifted into a bit of a negative pattern mentally. You're just thinking, right, if I can turn this around and make it more positive, and I'm chasing a positive goal, then you're more likely to turn it into excitement rather than effectively a fear of getting injured or, that kind of thing. So that, again, just unlocks more of the fine motor skills and the skill that you've got, rather than being clamped down and literally it feels like you're clamped in irons and I can't really move too well. Everything's just sluggish. So I just wanted to show you that. And this is, again, it's something with each fight that you get better at managing, because to start off with, it's just like, there's so much chucked into this cocktail that I'm trying to deal with, that there's too many plates I'm trying to spin here. But as you go on, more of them will become familiar. It'll be less over arousing, and you'll be able to kind of just dial into certain bits and start moving them forwards. So more fights always helps with that. And first fight is always just,
Thanks for listening. If you found this valuable, please like, subscribe, and share with someone else it could help too. Please give the podcast a review or comment below. We'd love to hear from you. As always, you can visit heatrick.com for more Muay Thai performance podcasts, videos, articles, and guides. Catch you next time.